The symptoms leading up to Whitney Mill's death, marked by rapid onset anxiety, paranoia, insomnia, psychosis, and intrusive thoughts, align disturbingly well with the early presentation of anti-NMDA receptor encephalitis, a rare but increasingly recognized autoimmune brain inflammation. This condition often begins with psychiatric symptoms that appear out of nowhere and escalate rapidly, especially in women. Whitney's abrupt psychological deterioration, including episodes where she reportedly felt trapped in a horrific horror movie and expressed a desire to disconnect from her body, fits the classic prodromal and early psychiatric phases of this disease. Crucially, NMDA receptor encephalitis often masquerades as a primary psychiatric illness, especially when no neurologic workup is done, which appears to have been the case here. What makes this scenario even more tragic is that she was embedded in a belief system that categorically rejects psychiatry and views mental distress as a spiritual failing or result of hidden entheta. Instead of receiving the medical testing that could have identified antibodies or inflammation in her brain, such as cerebrospinal fluid analysis, EEG, or brain imaging, Whitney was directed toward alternative explanations and pseudo-medical treatments by a Scientologist physician. Diagnoses of Lyme disease and cancer were made without solid evidence, and $20,000 was spent on treatments that failed to address her core condition. Within Scientology, her expressions of despair may have been viewed as manifestations of spiritual weakness or contamination rather than signs of a potentially treatable neurological disorder. If Whitney had been given access to proper medical care, NMDA receptor encephalitis could have been a life-saving diagnosis. Immunotherapies such as IVIG, steroids, or plasmapheresis have been effective in treating the condition, especially when identified early. But in a system where psychiatric symptoms are interpreted through a metaphysical lens and medical authority is undermined by ideological constraints, a legitimate medical emergency was not only missed, it was reframed as a spiritual struggle. Whether or not anti-NMDA receptor encephalitis was the definitive cause of her suffering, the failure to consider it, or anything like it, reveals just how dangerous it can be when belief systems override medical science, leaving individuals like Whitney isolated, misdiagnosed, and ultimately lost.